few seconds.
Hey,
Hey, Don, where are you? Are you in Cloud City? You got all these
I am.
balloons behind you.
Yeah. Funny story, guys. My wife is the PTA secretary, and she's trying to throw a baby shower for a teacher, and that was a month ago. Last time you saw me, the balloons have added. Here's the problem. Great story. Here's the problem. The teacher had the baby yesterday.
Oh
Before
wow.
two
Oh,
two weeks early. Baby's fine.
Wow.
Mom's fine. But baby shower here is gonna have to wait.
Yeah, sure.
Now I'm just in a Kirby animation back here where I have power speckles behind me. Yeah, I'm a
hey,
new god.
hey,
That's what I am.
save that talk for 8:45. No,
I was gonna
none
say,
of
it
that
kind of goes with
Nintendo
the
talk.
Mario Brothers look
Yeah.
and feel, doesn't it?
Phew, you would
Nice
think so.
segue there, Jeff. We
Mhm.
tonight we're talking right now. We're going to talk about the Mandalorian season 3, episode 7.
Mhm.
But at 8:45 p.m. Central, so it's about 43 minutes from now, we're going to be talking about the Super Mario Brothers movie.
That's right.
And lots to discuss tonight. But I am, as always, Ian Simmons of Kicking the Seat, and I'm joined by Jeff York of The Establishing Shot, and also Don Shanahan of Every Movie Has a Lesson and Cinephile Hissy Fit Podcast and 25 YL. And my God,
Too many things.
so,
I'm with you. Yeah.
how do you stay awake, sir? I mean,
You're the one who's up at 4 in, 2 in. I cave
4.
at midnight every time. So yeah.
Yeah, I tap out around 10:30, 11 o'clock. It's
Okay.
getting bad. But anyhow,
Mhm.
I'm wide awake and animated and ready to talk about this episode. Last week, Don, you're all caught up on Mandalorian.
I am
It's been a
finally.
few weeks
Yeah.
since you were able to join us, so glad to have you back.
Yes, thank you. No, I was on time in terms of like I would watch the episodes like Thursday after your show because I would just not make it in time to be on this. But no, I'm current, super current.
Okay, well,
And I'm as lost as probably you boys are. So
hey, I am found. Last
okay,
week
this one was a
been
good one.
such
Yeah,
it's been such an uneven season because
good word
there've
for
been
it.
a couple, I think, really standout gems. I think 2 weeks ago I said that was one of the best episodes of Mando that I'd seen, followed by
Was that
possibly
the X-wing captain from our Canadian Korean friend from what's the Simu show? Kim's Convenience, right?
yes.
Yeah, I call him Captain Uppa. Yeah.
Well, that was a
That was a
standout.
good one. Yeah.
But then it was followed up by one of the worst half hours of television I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And I used the F word last week, filler, and I got a little bit of pushback. I know
Okay.
I'm the anti-filler guy. I usually
You are.
find a purpose for everything, but especially in light of this week's episode called The Spies.
Mhm.
I don't think there's any standing up for last week's episode is anything more than just hey, we need an extra episode, which is weird because considering how much they open up the galaxy just in the opening like 5 minutes or so of this episode, I'm really astonished that they didn't just take more time to play, because next week is that's the end of possibly the end of the Mandalorian, because I don't know if you guys kept with any of the news coming out of Star Wars Celebration last week, but Dave Filoni is going to be directing what has been described as the Avengers Endgame of the Star Wars universe, where he's going to be bringing together a bunch of the television characters from the Disney Plus shows, I guess Ahsoka, Mando and Grogu, possibly the Rebels, to go up against the big bad, which I imagine is going to be Thrawn or something like that. And as we've discussed many times, we don't see many of these characters in the sequel trilogy or even hear about them. So it feels like it's going to be a cross between Avengers, Endgame, and the Wild Bunch.
Yep.
Like everyone's just going to stay snapped. But I'm rambling, but I just want to say I loved the new episode. I know there's a lot of complaints like there's no Mando in it anymore. It's just become the Star Wars show, and I'm kind of fine with that, considering the Star Wars that we're getting. Before we get to a synopsis, high level thoughts, gentlemen. Don, returning guest, what did you think of The Spies?
No, this was a nice jump back. The arrival of the promised bad of this particular season, which is, I guess, the returning bad of
Moff Gideon.
Moff Gideon. Sorry, there's so many.
That's okay.
No,
so many
the
names to
fact
keep
that
track of.
they're hard to me, but to get him back is a huge jolt, and to have him be backed by a pretty good little group of heavies helps a little bit. You have just finally some actual good physical confrontation, because I mean, I'm not trying to say that the Mandalorian needs to be like like a Superman show, the Incredible Hulk show, where like we always, one of the knocks on a hero like that is like, what kind of physical threat can you put in front of the Hulk or Superman? And you have the Mandalorian in this perfect Beskar armor where you can't shoot him or hit him very well. So what can you throw in front of that guy that could even slow him down? Now you finally can with a almost Lex Luthorian villain who is as much brains as he is brawn, which is really impressive. So yeah, this was the injection button, the NOS button on the Fast and Furious car that got this thing finally up and going, because I'm with you the last 3 episodes. No matter how much I like Captain Uppa, and even a little Christopher Lloyd and some of that junk that's there, it was treading for a little bit. And I don't know if you can afford to tread in an 8-episode series. You kind of need to put some pedal to the metal and go. Where there's ways you could have condensed along the way, where I think the Bo Katan stuff is perfect, right where you want this to be. You want this Mandalorian centered, mergers of clans and cultures and whatnot, and that return to form for this particular planet. But it's the side stuff that's been taking us in too many oddball places. So for them to kind of get to the point of like, hey, we're united, we're together, it's go time, was a big help.
Yeah, definitely. Jeff, how about you?
I liked it a lot too. I mean, I think Don raises a bunch of good points, and we have over the course of this show raised a lot of questions about what exactly is it doing. I think the overarching theme of and again, they said it even in this episode, that the Mandalorian's whole purpose is about honor and responsibility, which is not only him taking care of Grogu, but also doing something for his people, doing something for their home planet. And Boca is certainly a great part of that. And in some respects, they become not only, I think, the parents or stand-in parents, mom and dad, if you will, of Grogu, but kind of the co-leaders of the sort of return of maybe glory or what they think was going to be glory for the Mandalorians. That's one of the many themes that they built over the last number of episodes. I mean, the quest to sort of reestablish this land. Certainly, they talked about and alluded to Gideon's arrival and escape. There's also sort of the training of Grogu and him getting sort of more in the Jedi ways, and then some sort of secondary themes like sort of the ineptitude of the Republic not doing so well and maybe becoming a little officious and taking their eye off the ball, and then of course the return and the rise of the bad guys, especially in the First Order, and this sort of hit all those, and it kind of shows that there's too many of themes or story threads in this season, but it comes together very well, and it was very action packed, and I think kind of scary, and good characters, and they certainly teed up the line between where this ends and where sort of the new stuff starts with those special guards who came in. That's kind of where they are, and they weren't just kind of out of left field the way they were in the one Star Wars movie. It was an awful lot going on here, maybe almost making up to some degree, Don, for all the kind of sluggishness of a lot of the last few episodes, and to your point, Ian, a filler. But I thought this was really a terrific episode. In fact, if anything, it makes you wish they'd done this like 4 episodes in and spend more time with whatever the fallout's going to be, because characters die, villains return. It looks very bad for the Mandalorians as a race. They're kind of set up to fail here, even though they escape. And what's going to happen to Mando and Boca in regards to this. But they also had some great humor in this too. I mean, Grogu in that machine hitting the yes, the
IG-12, yes.
No, the IG-12, no. That was just hilarious. And that was prime sort of Star Wars style humor. So really good episode. I've been a defender of the season. I like a lot of the overarching arc. I think they've fits and starts in getting there, though I do like that theme. But I think this one was maybe the best episode of the series this year, certainly. And I just wish they got into it earlier. Yeah, in retrospect.
I mean, I'm there with you. I think because was it episode 2 was the one, or maybe it was 3, where they did the bookends with the flying around and fighting TIE fighters, I think. But then the main story was about Kane and the Doctor. Took place on Coruscant. That was either 2 or 3. I feel like, yeah, if that had been 2, and then like maybe every other episode they do this kind of what's going on in the wider galaxy, and then Mando is kind of like on the fringes, and things are getting closer and closer to him and what he's trying to achieve. That would have been more successful, and would have completely done without that Jack Black Lizzo business. But yeah,
that seemed very much like a last distraction, almost like the 11 o'clock number, like the sort of comedy before they conclude the Broadway show. Like, here's a little bit of goofiness because the next 2 episodes, shit, we really got to hunker down and get this thing action packed and resolved. Otherwise, we don't know what we're doing for season 4.
Well, and that's the thing is, I don't know if there's going to be a season 4, because the way they're talking about this, it sounds like they're working on this, ultimate movie. They've got Ahsoka and all these kind of other projects coming out. I feel like it's going to be Mando season 3, and the end of that character is potentially going to be that movie. But yeah, I don't want to talk about the kind of galaxy building that they do here, because they skip over, like, we jump right from a couple episodes ago. They discovered the space shuttle. The space shuttle, the shuttlecraft, whatever, that had been Gideon was busted out of, right? And now he's just back in full force. Like, he's strutting around in his cape. He's got this, and we've got the spoiler tag up, everybody. He's basically hollowed out the core of Mandalore. I guess like a few city blocks away from where Bo and Din Djarin were a few episodes ago, because they didn't realize what they were, on top of, essentially. But yeah, they're create a new kind of proto Empire Phase 2 base, or I guess First Order base. So they don't get into the whole like breakout and how did he get there, and it's not like a big long storyline. They just go, okay, he escaped, and now he's back in power. We don't know how he got there or how long he's been, running around. But the council, that when he marches into that chamber, and he's passing all those red shafts of light, and you've got the new kind of cool stormtrooper designs. I nudged my wife. I'm like, well, this is coming soon. This is the new action figure line. And then when Grogu showed up in the IG-12, I'm like, that's definitely a new action figure coming out probably in like a month, just in time for summer. But when he goes into those and talks to those holograms, they're talking about they're quibbling over the different projects they have going on. Like, well, that doctor guy, he was all about the cloning, but we're more interested in the necromancy, which leads into Palpatine's resurrection.
Two other themes in this series. It's a lot of themes.
But the thing is, this makes Palpatine's resurrection sound almost cool. I mean, it's a dumb idea, but these laying the seeds of it and coming up with a science to it and actually laying out some groundwork instead of just, he's back.
Yeah. Definitely. We're definitely better than we were. Yeah.
Right. But the other little Easter egg was Gideon addresses Commandant Hux. This is 30 years before Force Awakens, so I'm assuming that's Hux's, General Hux's
it's
dad.
Also played by a Gleason.
Yeah, played by Gleason's big brother. Yeah.
Yeah,
I did not realize that. Wow.
Yeah, so it's a lot of Easter eggs or in jokes, however you to qualify it, but
makes me like it even better. But yeah, I mean, this is one of the longer episodes. I mean, it's almost, it's like 45 minutes to throw in a ton of credits, but they meet another band of Mandalorians who are like these space pirates that had been. Help me out. Did I miss something, guys?
Sure.
They said that the Empire bombed Mandalore twice over, and we got a glimpse of what that bombing looked like.
Right.
Where were these folks hiding?
Oh, the guy from Top Gun Maverick. The guys, the ones who never left the planet, who are now scrounging in the Waterworld folks of Mandalore.
Yeah, that's perfect. The Waterworld folks. Yeah.
Where they came from and how they hold it down, I have no clue. But they're helmet off and willing to do what they do. So
that sounds hot. But no,
that sounds hot. Helmet off and willing to do what they do. There's the football porno over the night right there.
Yeah, they're the Raiders.
North Dallas 42 right there. There it is.
Whoa. But no, it's
good reference. Mac Davis, Nick Nolte.
They could pull off a helmet off, ready to go porno.
We're gonna keep this a family show. I guess that's how you make a family, though. Anyhow, but yeah, I mean, it was nice to see Kane come back. She was in for it was a nice little bit of subversion, because you see her in that very Blade Runner-esque corner of Coruscant. She meets with the probe droid, which always weirds me out whenever I see it outside the context of Hoth, just because I grew up
Yeah.
on Empire. I'm like, what is that thing doing in a city? But it projects Moff Gideon and they talk and all that stuff. So you think, oh, she's coming back, but she's not. She just kind of, again, she fades away into the shadows. So I'm wondering if she's going to be kind of written out of this show, or is she going to become like the secret, big bad of like one of the future series or something? I kind of hope so, because I really like Katie O'Brien and this character. But yeah, there's just this episode, even I don't want to say I felt like the Mandalorian concept was getting stale, but I like this, that it's becoming kind of a Star Wars show and it's going in the direction it is.
Well, I assume when you say concept, you mean the bounty hunter Western motifs that it started with, right?
Yeah.
We're way past that now that we got, like Jeff has said many weeks, the fatherhood and responsibility themes that are starting to really invade the show. And we said it earlier, like kidified a little bit, but they're playing to an audience, and we know that. So
it's interesting too, because I think one of the things that this episode did is it starts to sort of crystallize what's important, and maybe what was either a red herring or a little bit of a misdirect or a little bit of a thread that you need to sort of understand where we were, but maybe arguably from a screenwriting or storytelling standpoint, taking up a little bit too much time. I think they were trying to get us to understand the Mandalorian people better, so them as sort of these now refugees, or potentially wanting to be eradicated as a race to get out of the way. It's not just Mando and Boca that they may be threatening, it may be the whole group of them there, and there's a little bit of that sort of rebels escaping kind of into the mountain or through the secret passageway here. But there was an awful lot of stuff spent with the Mandalorians to get us to care about it, from the games to the rescuing of the kid. And I'm not sure if in hindsight all that stuff was as vital as some other things could have been.
Agreed.
I also have to say, as much as I am with you, and I like Elia Kane. I always want to say, isn't this? We've got Boko Rotan and we've got Elia Kazan, and these names are just a couple. I'd like to buy a vowel pad.
Oprah Uma,
something from these other kind of parody names. They did a whole episode setting her up as this kind of turncoat, which I think they honestly, in retrospect, probably could have done in one or two scenes, because I think. And maybe this is, getting to something Ian you wanted to introduce, so forgive me if I'm being premature here, but I think it's setting up the real spy in the spies as plural in this, and and that is the armorer. I think that's the actual spy. And I wonder if Elia Kane is maybe just the red herring, or the easy lowercase s spy. But I mean, there's a whole bunch of stuff about the armorer that I think points to there's a lot of things that she has done.
Oh my God.
Which I think are
you think
maybe
so?
Well,
Jeff, I think
you just I was like, come on, but then I'm thinking, like 2 episodes ago, or maybe it was the last episode, it all runs together. But when
does it though?
Bo comes back into the fold,
yeah,
and the armorer says,
pulls her aside, right?
Take off your helmet.
Yeah,
you are the one who can unite both worlds. Why would she want to do that? To get all the possible Mandalorians into one place.
That's right.
Because
and she even
back on Mandalore.
She even they couldn't go back to the planet because of the poison stuff, and she like you just said, she reunites them all. She leaves before this big ambush, a little convenient that she gets out. Also, and I don't mean to be too much of a conspiracy theorist.
No, go on, please.
When they reintroduce Muff, I think his new helmet, which looks pretty awesome, has a little bit of the design of the armorer helmet, and then
little also, pointed crown action going on there.
I thought about
arrows
that too.
And the kind of triangles on the side. That's a little close to that. Otherwise, if I was the director, I'd say that's a little bit too close to her. Can we make some a little bit different? If it's intended to sort of say, ooh, she's kind of part of this theme.
You think?
And also the armor is made from the Mandalorian stuff, which where would you get that from but an armorer? So I don't know. I'm thinking that maybe that's the big sort of long walk to this sort of terrible revelation. Now, what that does to the Mandalorian or Boca, I don't know, but that's my sneaky guess.
My early season guess was the same thing with Bo Katan, like that she is power hungry enough and missing her former stature to
Huh.
either take, beat Din Djarin for the dark saber, or do some nefarious thing to one over him,
Right.
and ascend to a place where she can control all these people. And I thought it was going to be Bo. And we still have an episode to go, but it looks pretty. What you're spinning is better than what I was thinking earlier with Bo Katan. So.
Well, I thought the same thing myself. Oh, sorry, go
Yeah.
ahead, Ian. I thought the same thing myself early on, because I thought she's, she's a little bit
Shades of gray, play in the middle.
Yeah, and a little hard looking, a little bit mean, even. Is that
Sure.
really like? But boy, in this episode, man, is she making the puppy eyes at Jin the whole time? There's a couple scenes where she's like this,
Ooh, that's a good pose.
looking
right
at him. It's
Yep.
like Katie's. It's like suddenly we're going
all
to
the
have
nods to the
some,
little
a
clans that
little
are
bit of
joining in.
romance
Like,
here. Take off your helmet,
oh yeah.
Mandalorian. Let's see
Whoa.
what we can begin with. Jin.
North Dallas 42.
There you go.
Say it, Mac Davis.
I think,
Baby, don't get hooked on me.
Oh, there it is.
I never had that suspicion, at least I don't think, about Bo Katan, just because
Okay.
maybe it's Katie Sackhoff. She just, she
You like her too
played,
much?
the hero in
Starbuck.
Battlestar Galactica. I just
Right.
associate her with being the kind of the damaged, rough around the edges,
Sure.
hero. But no,
I mean,
like
arguably,
the-
she's come out really well in this.
Oh,
series.
she has. I think
fantastic.
I like the armor angle. I was surprised because I thought for sure, like when they all go down to the planet, I was thinking, oh, this goes back to, and they did well in their planning, because this is like 20-25 minutes removed from Moff Gideon, what he was talking about.
Okay.
I was like, oh, they're just trying to get them all together in one place. He had mentioned right before that he had sources say that they were trying to or they're going to do something on Mandalore. So I'm like, oh, they're walking into a trap. When the armorer takes the wounded people, that little contingent, up into
Mhm.
orbit to meet the larger craft, because they were kind of the
Yeah.
scout mission, I thought for sure that they were going to get blown up, or that when back on the planet, when they're kind of going along that sea or whatever, and they say, look, what's that in the distance? I was expecting to see like debris from all the spacecraft like
Me
falling
too.
falling down
Yeah.
or something. That's it's nice to, I guess, have the expectations subverted. I just, maybe that does play into the armorer being, surviving, or maybe she comes back in a heroic role, or she's revealed to be the heel. Let's pull over a second, because we
Yeah.
have a comment
Ooh, here we go.
from Travis Mitchell. I think Axe Woves gets to the fleet and everyone learns Din
Okay.
has been captured. R5 sending a distress call to Tatooine. No.
Oh shit. Oh shit.
As long as it's just a distress call and we don't get back to Tatooine. And the New Republic Boba Fett arriving with Delphi Squadron. Help me out here. Forgive me. This is where I turn in my Star Wars card. What the hell is the Delphi Squadron?
It's a Greek fraternity based on Tatooine. Their extracurricular activities are sandcastle building and craft work.
But they're going to be too busy, so I'll have to send in Lambda.
Correct. And you know that they are the best in all the Olympic sports. So it assured victory.
Especially with that
and
relaxed javelin throwing style.
Oh, that's the most erogenous scene I've seen in a long time. Like, you should wave that javelin around, Lamar.
If I didn't think we'd get a copyright strike, I'd totally bring that up. right
Yeah,
now.
but there's no bush on Mandalore, so
Ooh,
Whoa.
yeah. Well, you can't tell me underneath all that armor, they're not all just hairy heathens. Come on now.
Well, we've
there's
definitely
no
gone.
looking women in that crew there.
Mark, you've
Oh,
been here
hell
all
no.
of 20 seconds, and we're already into this
Yeah.
is not Star Wars
Swimming into
X-rated
it.
parody land.
Yep.
I was talking about vegetation on Mandalore. I don't know
Oh,
what
sure,
you
of
guys
course.
are
Oh,
talking
yeah,
about.
yeah.
Or the
Shrubbery.
exotic animals living in the
Yeah.
bushes.
What kind of what kind of vegetation, Mark? Eggplant, of course.
Oh,
Maybe one or two peaches.
Yikes.
you know.
Mark the movie man. Okay, we've
Hey.
got like 15 minutes left in this episode
I know.
before we go talk
Great.
Yeah, thanks
Mario.
for coming, Mark.
Yeah. No, man.
Raise the quality of the show here.
So
Yeah.
what did you make of the Spies, the episode
Yeah.
we're talking about?
Why is
Oh,
it
thank
called
you, Trevor.
Spies?
It's
Good
called
point.
The Spies.
Why is it called
Oh,
the
the-
Spies?
Because
Ohio
we
State
know
University.
one, but there's plural, so there's got to be a second one.
There's always two.
There's
Now
always-
I was actually wondering about that. We were talking about the armorer, because if she is in fact a spy, is there someone else, or could it be that there's maybe ex-Woves' group that was formerly under Bo Katan.
Sasha
Maybe they're
Banks.
all spies. I don't think so, but it's part of the fun mystery.
Well, I keep thinking what you're thinking is in that at some point, maybe it's not now, maybe it's not next episode, but down the timeline, everyone loses because none of them are around for the Force Awakens. You know, like I'm not saying it's a big Rogue One, you know, big, you know, like you said, Wild Bunch thing, but at some point, none of these folks are around.
We'll get first of all, Travis, thanks for the context. I half understand this, even though you're clarifying. I still feel like
he hosts the Daily Show, right? Carson Teva, no. Late night, no. Okay,
no,
not that Carson. Got it. The voice.
Carson Teva's squad, who R5 provides Mando's location to. Okay, so it is possible. Like, I think next week's episode, the finale, is going to be like 6 hours long. It's going to be a mega battle and a rescue mission. They have
32 minutes long.
Oh no,
a short putt on the long green. Yeah.
But I do want to talk about, speaking of the Wild Bunch, before we go tonight, I want to talk about that I got emotionally stirred. We've seen this scene a billion times in movies. You know, you go ahead, I'm going to hold him off. We know that guy is not coming back at all.
Yeah.
I was getting emotionally invested in this. Before we talk about that sacrifice, Mark, what did you think of this episode? I cut you off.
No, that's fine. It was an episode.
Nice.
Here's the thing is they go from 0 to 50 with the story. Not just here. This season, they've gone from 0 to 50 with the story to where now suddenly it wasn't a surprise, in all honesty, that that wasn't really a big reveal. You were like, okay, the planet's been usable, so most likely the Empire is here, you know. Second of all, they do a wonderful shot on purpose of the wonderful forest planet in the background. Since you have the folks who are the First Order now on Mando, I'm like, are they alluding to the fact that the planet in the background ends up being Star Killer from Force Awakens later on, because
core out Mandalore more? Ooh, brutal.
But hey, the planet that held Starkiller Base was also an ice planet. So unless they did some like polar shifting,
no, there was forest on there as well. That was just they had it. It wasn't all it wasn't all snow. It was not all snow. But in any case, either way, it wasn't really a surprise. It was kind of interesting to see what they did with the whole Mando thing. But at the same time, we're looking at Mandalorians who they've set up. I know they've been on the outskirts, but they've set them up as these are the badasses of the galaxy. And so far this season, they seem to get the drop on them. People get the drop on them quite often. They don't seem to quite be they kind of, but don't get their, you know, butts kicked. I mean, it's just one of those things to where I'm like, it's a mixed bag with this season. I like them doing the whole Grogu in his now, you know, IG 89 or whatever it is,
IG 12,
excuse me, IG 12 suit. Although I'm like, actually, his little floating crib was more practical than this.
Totally agree.
Yeah. But IG-12 looks cooler, even though he still doesn't have any like protection in that thing, like a little shield, like a transparent shield.
You could just shoot him in the middle. But it's a mixed bag to where it felt like they were doing this to M. Night Shyamalan, the series of sorts. And that, oh look,
man,
it's, you know, it's here's the guy, right? Oh, and look, he's wearing Beskid armor, and oh, they've been on Mando. You know, it's just the way they've played it out. I don't know.
Large rug pull. You're right. Have all that magically be 2 doors down, like Ian said.
It's a large scope in a very short time, in a very contained, what has been a contained story of sorts.
Oh, but in a season where we've taken long strides for shorter things.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. The first half is along with what Jeff was saying earlier about Mando protecting Grogu and leading him as he becomes, you know, more learned, you know, kind of guiding him the right way, being the dad-son dynamic. And then boom, we got the one-off episode about the convert, you know, And then in this one, it almost felt like they were leading back to that. I'm like, all right, with the whole Grogu putting in the armor thing. I'm like, oh, we're getting back to that until we get a fleet, which so much for our road trip of assembling the Mandalorians, because apparently a good chunk of them were all in this fleet.
Well, I mean, yeah, look, I don't have quite as much problem with this because I've got answers for everything that you're talking about, except maybe that Starkiller thing. I still think it's a little far flung.
No, I mean, there are answers, but it's the problem with the format of all of these series is that they either go too long in certain sections and then accelerate through what could be a very cool buildup through like an episode, and the episodes a lot of times are less than 40 minutes long. I mean, there is a lot that they cover in some episodes and there's very little in others, and it's kind of like a speed up, slow down. But the stuff that looks like it could be more interesting, they seem to like suddenly abandon and throw in we're a Star Wars show, here's your Star Wars stuff.
Yeah, well, I think just yeah, I agree. And this is something we talked about a little bit at the beginning of the show, is it has been an uneven season. But the stuff that I think really works is that kind of galaxy expanding lore. I agree. The unevenness does lead to problems like you're kind of experiencing, like, hey, Moff Gideon's back. I don't have a problem with that because I feel like we get just enough information that he was broken out and now he's back to leading the charge of this, new base that's under Mandalore. That's not to say that he, developed all of that in the time that he escaped. I think there are larger forces at work, probably Thrawn or his ilk, because as we see, there's a giant superstructure that's still operating within the galaxy. It's just quote unquote underground. So yeah, I'm kind of digging this these layers that we're getting here. Speaking of things we're getting here, we are getting some comments.
Yeah.
So let's get back to this.
By the way, Starkiller is the planet Ilum. Ice planet
okay.
Ilum. I don't know.
Ilum Kane, was that Katie O'Brien's character? No.
I don't have another euphemism there.
What is with all these late arrivals? Mike, how you doing?
It's like a true Mandalorian episode. Hey.
Wow.
Hi, Giancarlo. How are you? No.
Nice. Mike, are you muted?
Yeah, he is.
Yeah,
You're muted.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Oh,
there you are.
Gene.
Okay, so Mike, we're gonna read some comments. Then we're going to get to your thoughts on Mando, and then we're gonna wrap up with my thoughts on the emotional climax of the show. Then we got to go because we got to talk Mario in like 12 minutes, and I gotta pee. Not too early.
Wow.
Travis Mitchell says again, the one annoying thing was why Din didn't take one of the droid chips from the last episode to reprogram IG-11. Seems odd to set that as Mando's quest and completely abandon it. Yes.
Correct.
Brian says this is the way. This is the way, Brian. Love ya. Travis Mitchell says there were reports a while ago that 2 episodes from Mando season 3 were literally put into Book of Boba Fett.
Here we go. You called it, Jeff.
That, and that might come back to something we were talking about, I think, in the beginning of this season, was how those 2 episodes felt like they would have been the lead off for this season.
Totally.
And they just prematurely like, look, we got this show is not working. We got to get people to watch. So put it in Boba Fett. Resulting in the season's delay. So I think a lot of the unevenness is last minute episodes. Very, very possible. Okay, Mike, what's going on? What did you think? Yes. What did you think of Mando 7?
I think right after I saw the episode, I texted one of my friends who does a little show on The Mandalorian and I basically said that was like Star Wars porn. That was a lot of the stuff I really loved.
He walked into the right show.
Yeah.
We were talking about Star Wars porn earlier.
Correct.
But no, I take your meaning. Yeah.
Yeah, Star Whores, right? As they call them.
Keep them coming. Keep them coming.
Yeah.
Nice choice of words, Don.
Yeah, it had all the things like a fan could love in it, but it didn't feel like fan servicey. If there's one thing I like about this season, unlike the last season, it's not relying on big reveals to sort of, keep the audience enticed. It's much more about the lore of the Mandalores. And yeah, them visiting this planet and getting okay, good. We're talking spoilers.
Yeah.
And nearly getting wiped out. That was this is sort of the payoff we've been looking for. and we're definitely going to get more of that next week. But yeah, huge action-packed episode. Had a lot of story, a lot of things that crammed in there. The mention of Grand Admiral Thrawn is there. We know Moff Gideon is up to some plans. He's sort of, as one of my friends called it, he's a Maulolorian. He's like Darth Maul when he tried to take over Mandalore. And yeah.
Well, I do want to just take a second to comment on Giancarlo Esposito's performance here, more so than because maybe he was just not in it enough in his previous appearances on the series. He's really got some time to shine here, and he reminded me. He looked like he's having so much fun playing like Pop Shakespeare, almost like Peter Cushing having a little bit too much fun in the role, but not in a campy way. It just looked like he was almost like he was so happy to be out of that space jail that he was like really going to ham it up. Yeah, I think he's shaping up to be a really fun villain. But that climax where, does anyone remember the name of the big guy with the gun? Because I just keep calling him the big guy with the gun. One who sacrifices himself, who is the armorer's
Spivey? No, not Spivey.
Name Predator characters, quick.
Yeah.
It was Dutch.
Who's Jesse Ventura with the minigun?
It was.
I ain't got time to.
I ain't got time to
bleed. But yeah, when they go like idiots, they chase a bunch of stormtroopers down into the mines of Mandalore, wherever they were, and they end up in this, Imperial facility. They get trapped and they are forced to watch Mando get the crap beaten out of him by a bunch of those new stormtroopers. I liked that he was like down to, until he was brought to his knees, he was using those whip cords or whatever that coming out of his gauntlets and like throwing people around, but he ultimately got beaten and then hauled away. And then you've got the big guy with the gun. The doors open up and he starts shooting at all the people that are trying to shoot them. And he's like, go. And then Bo uses the dark saber to cut a hole and everyone kind of runs out. And he just says, when he said, this is the way, I'm sorry, guys, I got chills in every part of my body.
Yeah.
And then he starts taking everybody out. And then it was just so comical. This is how you do a callback to a throwaway line in the beginning of an episode, because I had forgotten what a Praetorian Guard was. For a second, I thought he was asking for Gamorrean guards. I'm like, that would be awesome. But no, so the big guy with the gun takes out all of those new troopers. They're all dead, and then all of a sudden from out of the shadows you see those the giant, like the purple or the blue blades, they're in the red outfits, the purple blades, and then they come and they just take them out like rather viciously for a Disney Plus show. I thought that was
it was
brutal.
TV-14 last night for a reason.
In his dying breaths through the helmet, like this is brutal for Star Wars.
I thought he should have taken out one of them. That would have made it better if he could have at least taken out one of them.
He held his own, even with the
he did pretty long. You're right.
Well, it just goes to show how much more powerful Rey was, because she took out an entire room of those people. No.
Yeah, like her and Ren just did that easily.
He could have taken out one. I thought he did, and this is. Again, I didn't have a huge problem overall with the episode. I did enjoy it. I want to put it that way. It's just the way the season is going, to get an episode like this now was jarring for me. But
was it Din Djarin?
But when he should have taken out one of them, because he literally had a blade in his hand and he had one by the neck, and I thought he stabbed one in the neck.
I thought so too.
That didn't quite feel natural
for the way neck brace or something.
The way he fights but it does. He's got the vibro blade, which is to cut through it. What I'm saying is that the way they set him up for fighting, he should have been. Even you could still have the emotional impact, but he should have been able to take one out. He had one there. It made sense with the way they choreographed, because he didn't lose his blade. And that one threw me off just a little bit like that. I understand they're trying to make the Praetorian Guards badass. And by the way, Last Jedi still a thing. But sorry, they didn't cancel Last Jedi. You have it right here at the end of this one, the Praetorian Guards. But anyway, I just think that he should have taken out one of them as well, because it was there.
I understand. I liked the image of the three of them, kind of stalking away, and then the body is there. And my wife, like, this just like shows how she kind of responds to things. as the cuts to the credits, she was like, "That guy had a son." I'm like, "Oh shit, that's right." Now we've got a Mandalorian orphan in the back, Jimmy Kimmel's nephew.
We know how orphans turn out in this
Wait,
universe
that kid
too.
was Jimmy Kimmel's nephew.
Yeah,
that explains why his line delivery wasn't so good.
Little
I
bit.
am here in the way of the Mandalore.
All right, we're gonna close this out with Travis Mitchell once again. Paz. I guess that's the name of our big guy with the gun. Thank you. You are a font of knowledge, Travis. But ultimately, he's the slowest. His gun is attached to his jetpack, which is smoking and sparking, so he's not flying anywhere. If anyone had to hold the line, it was him. I agree, and I think it was a great way to go, especially because they had that great scene with him earlier doing that chess game or whatever, where he got into a fight, with the competing tribes, and there's like, do we break this up? And then Bo, I think, said we can't.
Yeah.
So they just had to settle it. Just to see that he was kind of like one of the main people, like, we're not going to talk to these folks. We don't believe them. They're a bunch of weirdos. To have him go out, I think that's going to help potentially unite the survivors and say, look, this is, he died trying to save us. So I'm gonna kill this episode, or this live stream. Mike, real quick, I feel bad because you jumped in like 5 minutes ago. Anything else to say about this app?
I wonder how the last one's going to be, if they're going to really give us a grand payoff or if it's going to feel underwhelming. I'm curious to see what the length's going to be. Every time you turn on the length of any of these Mandalorian shows, it's like rolling the dice. Although a lot of times when you get the shorter length ones, some of those can have a lot of story in them too. I don't know. Is it me, or was it the last episode before this one when Bo Katan was, and I don't know the Mandalorian she was fighting, but when she was fighting, the guy who was like real
Axe.
Yeah.
That looked like they filmed that like in the middle of like a public park or something like that. It looked like really cheap.
Toronto. Yeah.
There you go. Well, Mike, to your point, as far as episodes go, as in life, it's not the length, it's what you do with it that counts. But I'm going to let everyone go. We'll be back with What If He Doesn't Survive episode, I guess, 8 of season 3 next week, the big finale. We'll see how that turns out. I am forever hopeful. I'm forever grateful for my lovely and talented Earth's Mightiest critics joining me once again to talk Star Wars. It's a lot of fun. For those out there who are watching this later, please drop a comment. Let us know what you thought of this episode. Are we right? Are we wrong? What are you excited about for next week and even beyond? Because we mentioned Filoni is doing the Avengers Endgame of Star Wars, apparently. So wonder what that's going to be like. But until then, if you saw the Mario movie and you want to listen to us talk spoilers and engage with us, you can do that by hopping over to the next live stream. The link is down in the description of this show. At least it should be. We're going to be on in just a few minutes after I refill my coffee. Yes, I'm drinking coffee this ungodly hour. And thanks to Earth's Mightiest Critics. I am Ian Simmons. We have Jeff York of The Establishing Shot, Don Shanahan of pretty much everything. I'll just say Cinephile History of a Podcast. Mark, the Movie Man and Krawcheck of the Spoiler Room, and guest on the Cinephile History Fit podcast. Check those out. And Mike Crawley, you'll probably agree. Thanks, gentlemen. It's been a blast. And may the force be with you. Always.
This is the way.